Me and Bill Duke, we talked recently about this, and I said, he's 76 years old, so he's seen it all, and he grew up in the South, where black people weren't allowed to walk on the same sidewalk as white people.
Ooh,
You know what I'm saying?
that's
And
really bad, isn't it? I never saw that. Not even walk on the same side of the street. Sometimes we
yeah,
enhance it, but you
yeah.
could
No,
go to jail.
he said that black people would have to walk in the mud if a white person was walking towards them. So you were born in the 40s. So your parents, I guess, were born in the 20s.
Um, Not only the 20s, but 1901, 1905.
Okay. So they had relatives, and they were living in the deep South. So they had, I guess, what, grandparents that were still slaves?
Their grandparents and great grandparents. Slavery was a recent thing for them. But more than slavery, the inheritance of slavery in the sense that when they were going to church on a Sunday, say it was raining, and say they were on the sidewalk. If a white family came their direction, in the opposite direction, they had to step into the mud and bow their heads until the white family passed, then get back on the sidewalk and walk to church. And every time a white family passed toward them, they had to step into the mud and bow their heads.
Well, we didn't have to do that in Atlanta, but he was.
Yeah.
I think he's from Alabama or something like that. Yeah.
Alabama, I think you're right. But
And the older you are, the more you enhance these stories. So, had to walk in the mud on the other side. That was bad back in the day, and then they could just
yeah.
make up a story, and the police came and picked you up, man.
Yeah. Well, he was actually old enough to remember the Emmett Till situation.
Yeah, because he was down there, right? Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. He said that tore him up. So you were 12 years old when Emmett Till happened.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I want to get emotional, but how can you forget it? Did you ever see the pictures
Yeah.
after they took him from the lake? Looks like a monster, face bloated and half gone. Because they said that he's like a child, right? And that he whistled or something at a white woman. And do you know that years later, she came forth and said he never did it?
Yeah. Yeah.
He died because of that.
I was young when these things were happening, and when you're young, you don't realize the importance of the happening of the day. I was a kid when the Birmingham situation and the bombing of the church, I remember that. But when you're a kid, you just don't know. Living in Atlanta, hearing Dr. King speak all those, and when you're living there, it's just mundane. It's just like an ordinary thing. You just don't know until you get older. You go like, wow, I was a part of that. I sat in the F.W. Worth demonstrations and right in the back of the bus demonstration. And you get older, you go like, whoa, I was a part of that.
Well, yeah. When I talked to Bill Duke about this, and I said, well, look, in 2019, do you think that the racial divides are better, worse, or the same? And he said that these days with Donald Trump, he feels like it's going back to the way it was.
Now today, what is a little scary is the division that we're facing in terms of what's happening in this country right now. We're divided than we've been in I don't know how long.
So you, from your perspective, absolutely see the divide as a regression into how things used to be.
I think it's a regression because we're back to not judging each other based upon our humanity, but on the color of our skin or our gender. And you cannot tell anything about a human being by just how they appear. We have more in common than we do have difference. You and I are both gonna die. And you can't tell me when you're gonna die. I can't tell you when I'm gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
If we get cut, your blood is not blue. It's red like mine.
Mm-hmm.
We both have our challenges on a daily basis that we have to deal with. And most of the challenges don't care what color you are. You try not paying your mortgage or your rent and tell your landlord that you're white and see what happens.
Right.
I'm just saying, but the landlord cares about his green, right?
Exactly.
So I'm saying is that the ignorance of each other, the displacement of our common humanity today is a little disturbing. And there are some people who are fighting against it and reminding people of our commonality. But for some reason, on both sides, there is a divide.
It's definitely going back. At the same time, it's better because we do different things than we did before. We were not as educated back then as we are today. So it's going backwards in some ways, but if you're educated and smart, you can do okay in America. We just need it to be better for everybody. But I tell you what, if education is the key to everything. They can delay you, but they can't deny you with education.
Education and financial.
Well, you don't get the finances if you're not educated. Even people that don't go to school, let's say rappers that don't go to school, but they make millions of dollars, so they're educated in that way, smart enough to do that.
Oh yeah, no, I run a page on the side called Vlad Stocks, where I talk about financial literacy, where I talk about stock investing and everything else like that. And it's just amazing to me how, with the hip hop audience, which is my audience, 99% of them just think this is what old rich white people do. Like they have no connection to stock investing.
You better talk about that more. It's just not stock investment, just being aware of what the business is. Now you see some of the rappers out there and they don't know this and they've seen it before. And you have they got the gang with them, traveling with them, the entourage.
Entourage. Mm-hmm.
They don't know how much money they're spending with the airfare and the hotel and the food. The next thing you know, they go in and they make $1 million a night, but they just spent $100,000 on travel. Now that's 10% of what you just made, besides your management and your agency, and your other 40% tax. Now, so they made $1 million a night. Now all of a sudden you look at it, I only made $250,000.
Yeah.
You need to learn about show business.
Yep.
You got to learn about the business part. So I want all of these young kids out there making all that money. Don't go crazy. You see some of the football players, they got enough money to do it, but don't just go crazy buying $5 million cars and things like that. All you need is one car, two cars, unless you just got super rich abundance of money. And that's why you see the football players, what is it, 75%, 80% go broke, bankrupt?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I saw a video where Mike Tyson described how he burned through $400 million. $400 million.
How do you do that? As crazy as I am, I would always have at least $100 million sitting on the side. You know what I'm saying?
At least $100 million.
At least $100 million on the side. You cannot ever lose that much money. You can't go wild and buying everybody a Rolls Royce. You can't tell. Now he's older. He was a young kid. He didn't understand that. And if he had to do it all over, it would be completely different. But all young kids got to think there's a business. Save your money. Jay Leno was a smart guy. Never took a dime from the Tonight Show. All his money come from just doing gigs.